The Galactic Empire, a vast collection of advanced civilizations, had always viewed humanity with a certain level of indifference, if not outright disdain. To the Empire, humans were just another primitive race struggling to survive on the outskirts of the known universe. Earth, a backwater planet with little to offer in terms of technology or resources, was overlooked during the Empire's expansion. Its colonies were scattered across distant, inhospitable planets, barely capable of sustaining themselves, let alone posing a threat to anyone. In the grand scheme of galactic politics and power, humanity was insignificant. For centuries, the Empire had dominated the galaxy, its power built on advanced technology, vast fleets, and a military presence that could crush entire civilizations in a matter of days. The aliens that made up the Empire's elite looked down on humans as a species still too focused on survival to be of any real consequence. After all, in their eyes, how could a species that hadn't even developed faster than light travel on its own ever pose a challenge? The Galactic Empire's arrogance was its greatest weakness. But what the Empire failed to understand was humanity's ability to adapt, to innovate, and to survive against impossible odds. They didn't see the countless wars humanity had fought amongst itself, the constant struggle for survival that had hardened the species over millennia. What the Empire saw as primitive, humans viewed as resilience. And that resilience was about to change everything. While the Empire continued to expand, pushing further into the galaxy, humanity quietly focused on its survival. Aware of their position in the galactic hierarchy, human leaders knew that any overt challenge to the Empire would result in annihilation. Instead, they turned their attention inward, focusing on developing technologies that would allow them to defend themselves should the need arise. The rest of the galaxy saw only struggling colonies, but beneath the surface, something much more dangerous was brewing. In secret, humanity began working on advanced ship designs, developing weapons systems that were unheard of in the Empire. Scientists worked in underground facilities, far away from prying alien eyes, crafting technologies that blended both human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech. They knew they couldn't match the sheer size and strength of the Empire's fleets, but what humanity lacked in numbers, they made up for with creativity and a deep understanding of warfare. It wasn't just about building bigger ships or more powerful weapons. Humanity knew they would have to outthink the Empire, not outgun them. So, they focused on stealth technology, creating ships that could move undetected, appearing out of nowhere and striking before disappearing again into the void. They developed advanced energy shields, capable of withstanding the most powerful Imperial weapons, and weapon systems that could disable entire fleets with pinpoint precision. The Empire remained blissfully unaware of these developments. Their scouts and spies, confident in their ability to monitor human activity, reported nothing out of the ordinary. Humanity's subterfuge was flawless. Every failed mission, every scout that disappeared near human space was written off as an accident, the result of malfunction or hostile environments. After all, how could humans be responsible for the loss of such advanced Imperial vessels? But behind closed doors, human leaders knew the truth. Their secret fleet, hidden in the darkest corners of the galaxy, was nearing completion. A fleet that would give humanity a fighting chance against the Empire's seemingly unstoppable forces. The shipyards, buried deep in asteroid fields and cloaked planets, were bustling with activity. Engineers worked day and night, their efforts fueled by the knowledge that their survival depended on these ships. The fleet wasn't just a means of defense, it was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not be subjugated by anyone, least of all the Galactic Empire. The aliens who ruled the galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that underestimation would be their downfall. Each day, the fleet grew stronger, and with it, humanity's resolve. They knew the day would come when the Empire would no longer be able to ignore them. When that day came, humanity would be ready, their secret fleet prepared to face an enemy that thought them weak and defenseless. For now, the Empire continued to overlook humanity, treating them as little more than a nuisance in the far reaches of the galaxy. But soon, they would learn that the species they had dismissed as primitive was far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The quiet buildup of power, the hidden advancements, and the relentless drive to survive were about to converge into a force that would shake the very foundations of the Empire's control. Humanity was patient, but their patience was running out. In the depths of space, far beyond the prying eyes of the Galactic Empire, humanity's secret efforts to develop their advanced fleet were well underway. These weren't the endeavors of a government seeking to expand its reach or conquer distant worlds. Instead, they were born out of necessity, driven by the sheer will to survive in a galaxy that barely noticed them, let alone respected them. The human race had always been resourceful, finding ways to thrive even in the most hostile environments, and this fleet was the ultimate testament to that ingenuity. The fleet's inception didn't come from vast military budgets or a sprawling industrial complex. It came from necessity. Humanity knew they couldn't match the Empire's overwhelming numbers or technological prowess on a direct battlefield. Instead, they turned to their greatest strength, adaptability. Earth scientists, engineers, and military tacticians pooled their collective knowledge and experience, focusing on developing technology that was as advanced as it was unconventional. The aim wasn't to match the Empire's ships in size or power, but to outsmart them in ways the Empire hadn't anticipated. For years, humanity had quietly harvested resources from asteroid belts and remote planets, carefully hiding their activities from any Imperial detection. They utilized advanced camouflage techniques, cloaking their operations and masking their transmissions. The ships that were being constructed weren't just war machines, they were masterpieces of stealth and precision. Humanity knew that if they were ever to stand a chance against the Empire, they needed ships that could remain invisible until the moment they were ready to strike. Human engineers broke every rule in the book, shattering traditional ship design principles and creating vessels that were faster, more agile, and more heavily armored than anything the Empire had ever seen. Stealth was a given, but these ships also boasted the latest in human-devised energy shield technology, allowing them to absorb and disperse energy far beyond conventional limits. They didn't just resist enemy fire, they seemed to deflect it, sending blasts harmlessly into the void. But these ships weren't just about defense. Humanity's greatest triumph came in the form of their offensive capabilities. For years, human scientists had studied the weaknesses of Imperial ships, poring over battle footage, analyzing energy signatures, and identifying vulnerabilities in their design. They discovered that while the Empire's ships were formidable, they were also predictable. The Empire's reliance on sheer power meant their ships had blind spots, vulnerabilities that could be exploited by a well-placed attack. Humanity's new weapon systems were designed to do just that. They had developed weapons that were far more efficient than the Empire's clumsy energy cannons. Instead of raw firepower, they focused on precision. AI-driven targeting systems allowed human ships to strike with surgical accuracy, exploiting the Empire's weaknesses with devastating results. The fleet's flagship weapon was a disruptor beam capable of disabling enemy shields in an instant, leaving Imperial ships vulnerable to follow-up attacks. In testing, this weapon had proven so effective that it could render entire Imperial battalions defenseless in a matter of moments. But it wasn't just about the ships themselves. Humanity's true strength lay in the minds of those who piloted them. The fleet was crewed by individuals who had been handpicked for their skills, ingenuity, and ability to think outside the box. They were strategists and tacticians, able to adapt on the fly and outmaneuver the rigid battle plans of the Empire. Each captain understood that brute force wouldn't win this war. Instead, victory would come from exploiting the Empire's arrogance and rigid military structure. These pilots and commanders were given extensive training in guerrilla tactics, focusing on hit-and-run strategies that would confuse and frustrate the Empire's forces. They knew they couldn't engage in prolonged battles. The Empire's fleets were too vast. Instead, they would strike swiftly and decisively, crippling Imperial forces before vanishing into the depths of space. It was a tactic born out of necessity but perfected through relentless training and preparation. And so, the fleet grew. Hidden bases across the galaxy churned out ship after ship, each one more advanced than the last. Human spies and diplomats worked tirelessly to ensure that no information about these developments leaked to the Empire. Every test, every deployment was carefully masked to appear as nothing more than routine activity. Humanity's secret fleet was, for all intents and purposes, invisible to the rest of the galaxy. And that was exactly how they wanted it. As the fleet neared completion, humanity's confidence grew. They knew that the Empire would come for them eventually. It was only a matter of time. But now, for the first time in centuries, humanity didn't fear that inevitability. They had built something extraordinary, something that could turn the tide in their favor. And when the time came, they would be ready. The Galactic Empire, in its arrogance, had never expected humanity to be capable of such a feat. They had ignored the small, seemingly insignificant race, never considering them a threat. And now, that very underestimation would be their undoing. Humanity had built a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, ships that were invisible until the moment they struck, weapons that could disable entire battalions in an instant, and a crew ready to fight for their very survival. The clock was ticking. The secret fleet was prepared. Humanity had played its cards carefully, and now, they were ready to show the galaxy just how wrong it had been about them. The Galactic Empire would soon learn that they had underestimated humanity for far too long. It didn't take long for the Galactic Empire to notice that something was off. Reports from the outer sectors began filtering in: missing scout ships, strange energy signatures, and encounters with unidentified vessels that left no trace. At first, the Empire brushed these incidents aside as anomalies, the kind of things that happen from time to time in the chaotic and uncharted regions of space. But as the frequency of these reports increased, so did the concern within the Empire's command structure. The first signs that something serious was brewing came when an entire Imperial patrol went missing near human-controlled space. No distress signals, no debris, no indication of a struggle. One moment, the patrol was in routine contact with Central Command, and the next, complete silence. When search parties were dispatched, they found nothing, no wreckage, no survivors, just empty space where the patrol had once been. This began a series of investigations, each more troubling than the last. As Imperial ships ventured closer to human territories, they encountered strange disturbances, signals that couldn't be traced, bursts of energy that vanished as quickly as they appeared, and radar readings that showed nothing where something should have been. It was as if something was moving through the shadows, watching them, waiting for the right moment. The Empire's confidence began to crack. For so long, they had operated under the assumption that they were untouchable, that no race, least of all humans, could ever pose a threat to their dominance. Yet, the growing number of mysterious encounters near human space was forcing them to confront a reality they had never anticipated. Something was happening, something they didn't fully understand, and it was happening right under their noses. Commanders at the highest levels of the Empire began holding emergency meetings, trying to piece together the fragments of information they had. They sent more scouts, more probes, but all met the same fate, vanishing without a trace or returning with nothing but confusion and fear. The Empire was used to crushing its enemies with overwhelming force, but they had no idea how to fight an enemy that wouldn't show itself. It wasn't long before the Empire's military leaders decided they could no longer ignore the problem. They dispatched a larger fleet, one powerful enough to subdue any threat, no matter how hidden. This wasn't just a reconnaissance mission anymore. It was a show of force, a reminder to the galaxy that the Empire ruled with an iron fist. They would crush whatever insurgency was festering in human space before it could become a real threat. But when the fleet arrived in human space, they found only silence. No ships came to meet them, no defenses were visible, nothing at all. The commanders grew impatient, assuming that the humans were either too frightened or too primitive to respond to such a massive show of force. They ordered the fleet to move deeper into human-controlled space, confident that it would only be a matter of time before they rooted out whatever was causing the disturbances. And then, in an instant, everything changed. Without warning, the Imperial fleet's communication systems went dark. Their sensors, which had been scanning the surrounding space, suddenly registered nothing, no stars, no planets, no ships. It was as if they had been swallowed by the void itself. Panic spread through the ranks, but before the commanders could even give orders, the first wave of attacks hit. out of the darkness, human ships materialized. They didn't announce themselves, didn't broadcast demands or warnings. They simply struck with precision and overwhelming force. The Empire's fleet, so used to relying on its size and power, was caught completely off guard. Human ships moved with a speed and grace that the Empire had never seen before, their weapons cutting through Imperial shields like they weren't even there. The Empire's fleet tried to respond, but every move they made was countered before it could even be executed. It was as if the humans knew exactly what they were going to do before they did it. And perhaps they did. Human ships seemed to vanish and reappear at will, striking from angles that were impossible to defend against. The Imperial fleet, so confident in its superiority, was being dismantled piece by piece, ship by ship. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Empire was on the defensive. Its commanders, who had once viewed humans as little more than a nuisance, were now scrambling to survive. They had never imagined that the humans could possess such advanced technology, and certainly not a fleet capable of standing against the might of the Empire. But here they were, being outmaneuvered and outgunned by a species they had dismissed as primitive. In the chaos, the Empire's flagship was hit by a barrage of human fire, its shields collapsing in an instant. The once imposing vessel, the pride of the fleet, was reduced to a smoldering wreck in seconds. As the ship drifted into the void, it became clear that the Empire had severely underestimated humanity. This wasn't some small insurgency. They were facing a highly advanced and coordinated military force that had been hidden right under their noses. As the remnants of the Imperial fleet retreated, it was clear that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. The Empire, once so secure in its dominance, had been dealt a humiliating blow by a species they hadn't even considered a threat. Humanity, the underdog of the galaxy, had revealed its hand, and it was a hand that no one had seen coming. The Galactic Empire was left reeling, its confidence shattered. For the first time, they understood that humanity wasn't just another minor species to be brushed aside. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they had the power to challenge the Empire's supremacy. As the Empire licked its wounds and prepared for the inevitable counterstrike, one thing was certain: the days of underestimating humanity were over. The Empire had always believed that they held the reins of power in the galaxy. But now, they were beginning to realize that the reins were slipping from their grasp. And humanity was more than ready to seize them. The silence that followed the Empire's retreat was deafening. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had faced the full might of the Galactic Empire and emerged victorious. But there was no time to celebrate. The battle had been only the beginning, a test of their fleet's capabilities, and humanity knew that the Empire would be back. They would return with even greater numbers, with more powerful ships, and with a desire for vengeance. Humanity had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The leaders of humanity convened in secret once more. They had revealed their fleet to the galaxy, and there was no going back. The element of surprise was gone, and now they had to prepare for the inevitable. Plans were drawn up to bolster their defenses, to expand their fleet even further, and to fortify key positions across human space. Engineers worked around the clock, building new ships and upgrading existing ones with the data gathered from the first encounter. Every weakness the Empire had shown would be exploited, every strength countered. But it wasn't just about military might anymore. Humanity knew that they couldn't rely solely on their fleet to keep the Empire at bay. They needed to outthink them, to anticipate their next move, and to stay one step ahead at every turn. This wasn't a fight that could be won through brute force alone. It would require strategy, deception, and above all, unity. For the first time in centuries, humanity was united under a common cause. The survival of the species depended on it. As the days passed, whispers spread throughout the galaxy. News of humanity's stunning victory reached distant planets and alien races. Species that had long suffered under the Empire's rule watched with interest. Some saw the humans as a beacon of hope, a chance to challenge the Empire's stranglehold on the galaxy. Others were more cautious, unsure if humanity's rise would mean the collapse of the established order. But one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a footnote in the annals of galactic history. They were a power to be reckoned with, and the entire galaxy was paying attention. The Empire, meanwhile, was reeling. The loss of their fleet, especially at the hands of a species they had dismissed as insignificant, was a humiliation that couldn't be ignored. High-ranking officials scrambled to assess the situation, trying to understand how they had been outmaneuvered so easily. The humans had revealed technology that the Empire didn't even know existed: stealth systems, advanced weaponry, energy shields that rendered their ships nearly invulnerable. It was as if the humans had leaped ahead by centuries in mere decades. There were whispers within the Empire's ranks as well. Some suggested that humanity must have received outside help, perhaps from a rogue alien faction or a previously unknown power. Others speculated that humans had been hiding their true capabilities all along, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Whatever the case, the Empire knew they couldn't afford another failure. Plans were drawn up for a counterstrike, one that would be overwhelming and decisive. This time, they would crush humanity before the species had a chance to become a true threat. But humanity was ready. As the Empire gathered its forces for a second attack, human strategists had already begun setting their trap. They had learned from the first battle, understanding how the Empire fought and how to exploit their arrogance. This time, it wouldn't be a simple hit and run. Humanity was preparing for a full-scale confrontation, one that would decide the future of their species. The human fleet, now larger and more powerful than ever, lay in wait. Ships were strategically positioned across key points in space, hidden from view by their advanced cloaking technology. The Empire's forces, confident in their superior numbers, moved in without hesitation. They believed that this time, they would overwhelm the humans through sheer force, that no amount of clever tactics could save them from the inevitable. But as the Empire's fleet advanced, they found themselves once again walking into the unknown. Human ships emerged from the shadows, striking with precision and coordination. It was as if the humans knew exactly where the Empire would be at every moment, as if they were always one step ahead. The Imperial fleet, vast as it was, struggled to maintain cohesion as human ships darted in and out of the battlefield, delivering devastating blows before disappearing into the void. The Empire's commanders were desperate. They had been so sure of their victory, so certain that this time they would crush the humans beneath their might. But humanity had learned from their first encounter, and now, they were playing a different game. It wasn't about direct confrontation, it was about control, about using the Empire's own size and arrogance against them. The larger the Imperial fleet, the harder it was for them to maneuver, and humanity exploited this to devastating effect. One by one, the Empire's ships fell. The sheer power of their fleet meant nothing if they couldn't hit their targets, and humanity's ships were too fast, too elusive. The battle, which had seemed so certain in the Empire's favor, was quickly turning into a slaughter. Human forces coordinated their strikes with terrifying efficiency, disabling the Empire's most powerful ships and leaving the rest in disarray. As the battle reached its climax, the Empire realized that they had no choice but to retreat. They had underestimated humanity once again, and this time, the consequences were even more severe. With their fleet decimated and their pride shattered, the Empire fled, leaving humanity victorious once more. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was left in awe. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived, defeating the most powerful force in the known universe twice. Their secret was out, and now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity was no longer the underdog, no longer the species that could be overlooked. They had become a true power, capable of standing toe-to-toe with the Galactic Empire. But even in victory, humanity knew that the war was far from over. The Empire would never stop, never forgive the humiliation they had suffered. More battles would come, more challenges, but humanity was ready. They had proven their strength, their ingenuity, and their resilience. And now, the galaxy knew it too.